You're listening to Make It, a podcast by Bonsai Creative that helps creatives in film get where they're going faster by sharing the advice, knowledge, and insights of professional creatives across the film industry. I'm your host, Chris Barkley, and with me today is my good friend and Make It podcast co-host, Nicholas Buds. Hello, Chris here with another episode of the Make It podcast. And this is an Indie Talk week, and that means I'm here with my good buddy and co-founder of Bonsai Creative, Nicholas Bugs. Nick, say hello.
Hello. Good to be back, man.
Yes, it is. And what would happen if I shared a little data with you?
Well, I don't know, man. I prefer my data. So I don't know. You throw some data at me. I don't know what I'm going to do. Patata.
Tomato.
Right. See you later.
Tomato.
Hit me with
I'm going to share some data with you that I think is kind of fascinating. Mm-hmm. And it really hit home today.
Okay.
As I started to think about the indie filmmaker's journey in the line they have to walk as it pertains to this data. So here's the data. Okay. 33% of everything a person tells you is a lie. According to the data is leaning towards that finding. Of course, in science, and this comes out of the field of data science. So as all science is, it's falsifiable. So maybe we find out later that number is slightly up or down one way or the other. But right now it appears to be that 1/3 of everything someone says to you is a lie, according to Seth Stevens-Davidowitz, who's a data scientist. And he also wrote the book, Everybody Lies, which is a top-notch book. And it made me think about the conversation we had in our 2021 wrap-up, which was awesome and fun. Everyone should go listen to that.
Yeah, super fun.
It's in the feed. We had a conversation about fake it until you make it. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to expound on that a little bit today. So we can talk about a couple of areas in which indie filmmakers and the supporters of indie filmmakers, the viewers, their customers, investors, you name it, all sort of fudge the details a little bit in what amount of fibbery is acceptable and what amount turns you into a fraudster. And we can start that conversation with fake it till you make it, but then, maybe turn it into other areas, turn left, turn right, and go into different areas of where these lies come up. But with fake it till you make it, it's generally, I would say the perception of it is generally positive, right? Like
it is. Yeah.
It's something that you say about a person who is really trying to do something that other people think is delusional. And if not delusional, someone thinks is really low success rate, very difficult, rare. I know that, for example, when there were people around me that I told that I was going into film many, many years ago when we started in 2015, I got hammered with questions about money and the feasibility of this. I actually had one EP tell me at a cocktail party that, you cannot make money in independent film. It just cannot happen. So don't even do it. And you're crazy to do it, and it's one of those things where when people don't believe in you to start out with, now if you're like me and competitive, you're like, okay, now I'm even more motivated to do it, and to hell with you for thinking that this is about the money anyway.
Right.
I'm going to try to do a thing, and I'm doing it. I'm having fun. I'm doing it with my best friend. Why not go after it? But when we started, we didn't have any credits. We didn't know anybody. We were coming out of tech. We were coming out of publishing. My background is as a journalist and a marketer. Your background's in project management, IT, computer science. So we didn't have a background necessarily in film. We were definitely an outsider. So when we went to engage these filmmakers, I don't think it was like, I'm not sure it was the most intelligent thing to bring up that to those folks, right? So did we lie? Was that a lie of omission? Or were we just doing the positive side of fake it until you make it?
Yeah, I think so you said delusional, right? And I think
which by definition is incorrect. I'm saying it in the colloquial way.
Yeah. So I would say that term, the fake it till you make it, is more aspirational. Mm-hmm. Right. And I just remember that you just mentioned, like, in the early days when, we're talking to some filmmakers, again, we can name drop, right? I mean, it's one of those things where at this time where, like, we're sitting with Lakeith Stanfield, right, at an early part of his career. And, I remember walking the red carpet. Yep. It's an interesting thing, right? For us at that early stage in our career, and we're walking with, there's Dick Gregory, right? Nick Cannon was there, right? There's other folks, and you're walking the red carpet. Roseanne Barr was there. George Lopez, right? But you're walking the red carpet with these
Omar
people.
Dorsey.
Right. And some
it goes on and on. There was a ton of people.
Name dropping.
Ton of people there.
But as you walk down the red carpet, people will say things to you like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
or what are you? And I remember fumbling over that. I mean, 100% honest, right? This is kind of that imposter syndrome hit. It was like, I don't know if I should be here kind of thing. And maybe I shouldn't walk the red carpet. But even the photographer said, well, no, just what do you do? Right? And I said, well, I want to be a filmmaker. He's like, no. So are you here talking to filmmakers? Are you trying to do a thing? Like, are you working towards that? You're actively working? Then you're a filmmaker. Just say that. Just say it. Like, you don't have to come, I don't know. No, because the filmmakers aren't, like, think about it, right? There's the name, the word filmmaker, right? It's not film made. Right? So who you are is in the making, right? That whole process that you go through to meet people, to educate yourself, all those things that you're doing, you're in the filmmaking process. You're a maker of things, right? So it's all part of it. So don't, sit back and have this imposter syndrome. There is that sense of fake it till you make it. Did I make anything yet? No, but I'm in the process. So be aspirational in your thinking and your belief towards yourself. Right. So I'm totally down with that. I'm like, yeah, man, even when I told the guy too, I was like, yeah, and I write poetry. Then say you're a poet. Yeah. Right. He's like, say it, say the thing. Yeah. Like, don't be shy about the thing that you are. It's like if Maya Angelou had walked down that red carpet, right? If she had never made a film a day in her life, do you think that she would feel imposter syndrome? No. Right. Because the power of her poetry, she is a poet. She can say that. She can feel good about it, walk down the carpet. So, I feel like there's a little bit of that where it's just like, just say it, man. Even if you're on your way, as long as you're working towards it, I think you earn the title.
Yeah, there's fear on the other side of it, like especially with writers. I'm a writer. Saying you're a writer is a dangerous phrase, maybe not in real life, but in the mind of the writer. It's a dangerous phrase because the very next question often is, what can I read of yours?
Yeah, that's right.
What have you written?
What have you written?
Then you're sort of stuck because if your response isn't a planned one isn't, because you talked about fumbling and hubba like at the red carpet. We hadn't had the chance to practice those responses yet.
Right.
And as we've worked together over the last 7 years, we've rehearsed and done really well. We understand how to give a great sort of media response to a tough question.
Yep.
But at the time, you don't know. So if you're just starting out as a writer and you say, I'm a writer, and someone hits you with the, well, what have you written? What can I read of yours? You might say something like, I'm working at Domino's Pizza right now. Wrong answer. Wrong. Because then the person feels like you put them on to start the conversation, that you try to sort of elevate your status and you were trying to play a status game with them. And then you got caught in the status game.
Yeah.
And they took your queen off the board. And now you're who you are. And then that doubles down on your imposter syndrome. It's like, okay, don't ever say that again. You work at Domino's. If your response is, I'm working on my thing right now, it should be, here's what it's about, should be done at this time. That's a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. Sure. It's a little bit better, because then that person you're talking to, in the back of their mind, honestly, they're thinking, okay, well, they're not an established writer. That's what they're thinking. And it's okay that they think that, but it gets you further on in the conversation. It makes you an interesting person, the person you see in the mirror. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you're one of these aspirational people, you're going up to the person you see in the mirror is okay. But I'm trying to think what the perfect answer would be to that. It could be, why don't you have lunch with me next week, and I'll bring some of the things I've written, some of the samples I have. And then you have a week to write some samples. You show up to the lunch. So it's one of those things.
Whatever it is, your 7th, whatever it is, your 50th, whatever it is. Because, at some point, it's like some of the filmmakers that we are huge fans of.
Yeah.
They've done some things. Would you say that they're notable? No. But we know that by continuing to do what they do, at some point they're going to strike gold. Like everyone's seen that picture, right? That image of the person who's like, with the pickaxe, and they're digging. And then they stop right before they hit the diamond.
Right.
Is that kind of thing? Well, that's
digging through the mountain and they stop right before they get to the other side.
Exactly. It's like, that's what these filmmakers are that we work with, that we know, that we love. It's like, no, they're going to continue digging.
Yeah.
Right. So, when you go talk to someone, you might not be the thing that you want to be, that you aspire to be, but you're on your way. So for me, I've been like, I'm on my 10th manuscript, on my 10th screenplay, I'm on my 15th this, and I'm going to have it reviewed by some folks. I'm hoping to move this one along, but it shows that you're working at it, right? Yeah. If you just said the one thing, then that's when people kind of cut their eye at you, like, oh, these guys green and just starting. Yeah. But most of us, when we even start on a creative career path, we've been in that creative zone for years before we actually move into that creative career path. So let's say for me, I love writing poetry. Over the past several years, I've written hundreds,
thousands,
if not thousands at this point, of poems.
Yeah.
Right. So even before that, how many did I write when I was in middle school and high school and college leading up to that? Right. I've written thousands of poems. Right. So that's when you get to that point where I've written 10, 20 screenplays, and you're just refining that art as you go. But I think that whole fake it till you make it really is on that. Again, it's aspirational, might not quite be there just yet, but you're going to speak it into the world as if it's just around the corner.
I was just going to say that once you say it out loud, and hopefully the first time you say it out loud isn't at that dinner party. Hopefully you've said it out loud to yourself. Hopefully you put it aspirationally on a piece of paper and stuck it to your refrigerator so you have to see it. The Holste Manifesto that's behind my head right here that says, this is your life. That's my declaration. That's the thing that I have to look at every day. I got it that big. There's different sizes you can get. I got the biggest size they sell on purpose so that I'm forced to look at that every day and remember that above all else, create things, be creative, be a happy person, etc., and make tough choices so you have an easy life and instead of making easy choices and having a tough life kind of thing. But there are caveats to what you said. For example, if you say out loud that you're a writer, it's time for you to get in the dirt. Don't say you're a writer in social circumstances, and every time we see you, you're really a talker, not a writer. Or you're a conversationalist, not a writer. Like, you're not grinding on a script or a poem or a song or anything. Some of the indie creators I love so much around that are in our sort of, ecosystem, our universe, if you will. What we love about them is that they are actually in the dirt. They are Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood in the opening scene. Like, they're in the ground and they're willing to risk it all to be there. There are a lot of people that say they're a thing and then they don't do anything toward it whatsoever.
Right. Yep.
But they want to maintain that identity because that identity is so connected to their self-worth.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets tough because I don't even know. Is that a fraud? If it's sadly connected to your self-worth, but you really don't have the passion for it. It's a fun thing. Art is a fun thing to lie about.
Yeah, or to be associated with.
Yeah.
Right. Especially if you just happen to be friends with the one that made it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun thing to lie and say
place to be.
It's a fun thing to say you do. No matter what the art is, it's fun to say. And we lie about that stuff. Going back to the beginning, 33% of everything we say. How often do you drink? A couple of drinks a week. Nope. 7 drinks a week minimum.
Right.
How often do you work out? I'll probably do about every other day. Mm-hmm. No. 3 times every 2 weeks.
Right.
How many carbs do you? Yeah, probably usually go carbless. No. So,
right. Yeah.
At what point do we cross that line and it becomes, I'd say the other caveat too, maybe not with a writer or not with a filmmaker, but with those who want to engage filmmakers with opportunities. There's nothing wrong with being a young editor or distributor, or maybe you're in music and you started a record label or whatever it is. But when you're on the taking side, I think you have to be more clear, Nick, because then you really can be a grifter, right?
Yeah, I think I think it works on both sides, right? There's that whole fake it till you make it aspirational thing can work, again, if you're a distributor, right? Yeah. Because you need films to distribute, right? Yeah. So you can say that, hey, I'm a distributor. Well, what are you until you get your first film to distribute? Right? It's like you don't have any films, but you got to say it. But when you get the film, you got to do the thing. Like you said, you got to get in the dirt, right? It's okay if you fake it a little bit, right? You got the infrastructure to make you look a certain way. It looks like you've done all these things. You may even get, some testimonials from people who just like who you are as a business person or a person in the industry, but it may not have to do anything with your ability to distribute. Right. These are all the games that we play. But once you get the thing, do the thing, right? Distribute that sucker, distribute the hell out of it, right? But yeah, I think that's when you get in that line. I think that's where we're kind of going now. It's like, well, when do you get out of that aspirational stuff into just straight up lying, right? And I think that's it. When you don't do the deed, right? If you do not meet the expectations of your role, right? Because the expectation.
But I think the weight is heavier on the take side.
Well, I don't know.
If you don't make the role of being a screenwriter, no one's gonna.
Then that's on you.
No one's gonna nail your balls to the ground for that, or whatever the female equivalent is. No one's gonna do that to you, and they know it's gonna hit your pride, and they don't have to do that to you because you're crushing yourself by not doing the thing you said you're going to do.
Okay.
But if you're on the take side and you don't do the thing, that's, to me, bigger. It's hevier. It's more,
you're hurting somebody else in the process.
Right. It's more. You can't afford to even do it one time. And you want the calculus for a tragedy? Have two people on both sides of the fence in film be fake it till you make it types.
Yeah, right.
If you are both faking it till you make it on both sides of that equation,
well, no.
That is the recipe. That is the calculus for a tragedy.
Well, listen. I think
because
it's okay.
The fake distributor or the fake opportunity maker knows that you're faking it, so you can't call them out. And the fake filmmaker or screenwriter or project developer or producer knows the other person's faking it, so they're not going to call them out. And they're just going to, and the whole relationship's going to be built on a lie, and the lie will become the reality.
Yeah. And I think it's okay if they're both aspiring to do it, like legitimately.
Yeah.
Right. Again, if your heart is in the right place, I think it'll all work out. I think for me, it's when the distribution side or whatever the taking side is, right? It could be a salesperson, it could be distribution. I mean, who knows? Anything on that side. If they're not legit, if they're not actually doing the thing that they say they're going to do, then again, they're not just hurting themselves, but they're hurting someone else. Like you said, the taker, whatever they've taken from, whomever they've taken from, they're going to get hurt along the way. And I think that's where the lies just don't add up. You can't lie like without the aspiration of becoming. I think to me, that's where it comes down to it.
I think you can have the aspiration and then still be sort of on the wrong side of fake it till you make it. If you use the wrong language. Like, I could be an aspiring distributor or an aspiring investor, but if I say that that my firm is bigger than it really is, because I'm faking it until I make it, and I want to put my best foot forward. Like, things we do on calls, the language is so important, because we'll tell a filmmaker, hey, we are a 5-employee boutique house, and we cannot afford to make a line of bad investments. That one sentence changes everything. Whereas, we've heard others where it's like everything is shrouded. No, yeah, like I've worked with so-and-so and I know so-and-so, and this is how it really works. And then you find out, just because they're in your phone book doesn't mean you're friends. Or just because, you know what I mean? Or the money really isn't there. There really isn't an office. They really haven't done this work. They really don't know, all their posts on Instagram are setups. It just, to me, you've now crossed a line through your language.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again,
even though you could truly be aspirational.
Yeah, I hear you. But again, you got to do the deed. That's what it comes down to. You got to put in the work.
Yeah.
Right. You got to make it happen. And if you're not working towards making it happen, then that's when the fraud comes in.
It gets a little, it gets gray. The longer you do it without grinding it, like without really doing the thing, the more murky it really, really starts to get, because the more pressure you have to present a more viable front than what really exists. Let's talk about, though, what happens on the filmmaker side when they actually have it. Like, they're not faking it till they make it. They're filmmakers. They have a thing, and now they're looking for investment dollars, or they're looking to make a big splash. And you get the prospectus, Nick, and they have their comps. And the comp is, let's say the film's a $500,000 film and their comps are all $3 to $5 million films. Maybe they're $1 million films, but they all have, let's say, an A-list actor in it. and their film doesn't. And they find it's easy. I think it's easy to cherry pick a comp into your prospectus and then create a narrative around why it should be there. Right.
Yeah. I think it's funny you mentioned that. I think about, so it's a lie, right? It's like, when it comes down to it, you're lying to your investor, right? But I think maybe it's not as simple as that, because I think what's happening in those cases is that actually they're lying to themselves.
Right. Yeah.
They just don't know it. Right. Like that's the tough part. It's like, that's not really that's not how it works anymore, period. Right. These comps, unless you're, let's say you're Tom Cruise and you're comping a movie that you were in before, your comp as an indie doesn't work, period. It's more like what's your plan?
Yeah.
Right. Not what are you hoping that luck and fairy dust will make happen for you. It's like, no, what is your actual plan? So I think that part is, you're lying to yourself. And then because you're lying to yourself, you're therefore lying to the potential investor, because it won't work out that way. Like you said, it's a $500,000 film versus a $5 million film. The cast is not the cast that you have. It's not the same thing. So it's like, that's where that delusional stuff comes in, right? You have to escape from the delusion of this and then speak reality to the potential investor. But I think the challenge with that, the reason why filmmakers lie to themselves, is because without the lie, it becomes very, very hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, the question we want to answer in this conversation is, what should a filmmaker do when they're trying to do a raise? Like how much stretched data and information can you provide before it becomes fraudulent? If your goal is to do a raise and you're trying to do a raise, you're not going to come in and say, you know what, my film is dog shit. We have a great score, but we don't have the rights to any of the songs.
Well, you can't do that.
The budget's 500, but it should be 3 million. Our actor, like at what point do you have, like you need to sprinkle, or as one producer told me, the great Serena Khan, sometimes you have to roll that turd in glitter.
Right. Yeah, it's still a turd though. It still smells, right?
There's a turd underneath that glitter.
That's right.
But as a producer, that's a great piece of advice.
It is.
As an investor, you hate to hear it.
No, I think that there's
because there's a turd under there.
There's benefit to being, a cheerleader, right? You want to be a proponent for whatever it is you're doing, but at the same time, again, it has to be based in reality. And I think that's where this stuff comes in, where it's like, you got to base it in the reality, especially of today, right? Like, in what world, again, like I don't want to keep going back to it, but it's like, in what world do those comps work? They just don't. I know you've got Marvel and DC, exploring the idea of the multiverse, so maybe if someone steps out into a different universe, that crap will work, but it doesn't work in this universe. So it's like, no, it doesn't work. So
it works enough. It works enough because it persists.
It used to work. That's what I'm saying. Like, it used to work.
Yeah. And
they're just holding on to that now because they don't know any better.
Old tradition. Got it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now it's like, no, you got to do something different. So what I'm saying is, like, stop the lie, stop lying to yourself. And then I think at that point, that's when, as soon as you stop the delusion, that's when you're able to actually put in the real work that's necessary in order to get your thing to move forward. Right. And sometimes, I've told you this before with some filmmakers, maybe the delusion is that you get to direct the thing that you write.
Yeah.
Right. So let's get rid of that. Stop lying to yourself that that's the right thing to do and sell your script. Right. Or stop lying to yourself. Don't sell your script. Hold on to your script, but get a director. Right. Get someone else who really believes in what you're doing, and then you do it together. Right. So, but I think there's a lot of those lies that we tell ourselves. So it's like when you said 33% of what we tell people is a lie. Sometimes I wonder, like, is it actually the lie, or is it just based on a lie that we tell ourselves? Right? Like, this is going to be successful because blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, you're lying to yourself.
And I'm not sure how much of a hardliner you are on lies. I may be putting myself in a position of weakness here, but I'm not a really big hardliner on lies. To me, I think I've always known that people are going to tell you lies for a variety of reasons. Yeah. And if you're savvy and you're paying attention, you can figure out which lies matter and which ones don't. That's all. And then you can trust the person to live up to the lies that they tell you. And this could be the fact that I grew up very modestly around hardened criminals, but so you learn to like parse the bullshit lie from the really serious lie.
Right.
But not that that's my life anymore, but I'm not a hardliner on a lie. They're like, you have a friend, they have a baby, the baby's ugly. You can't say the baby's ugly. You can't. You want to. That is an ugly baby. Oh my God. But what kind of person are you? You have to pick and prioritize. Do you want to be the honest person who destroys the feelings of your friends and family? Or do you want to be someone who's capable of telling a friendly white lie to keep things moving? I had a friend named Jim, and Jim would go to dinners, group dinners. We'd have these, and we throw good dinners, and we do it right. It's not something we've talked about before on the cast, on the pod. Jim would come with a book and AirPod Pros, or at the time AirPods, not Pros. They weren't out yet, to the dinner. He would never take them out, and he would read a book at the dinner table while everyone else was having a conversation. Mm. Why not just not come? Tell us anything. Tell us any lie. You know what I mean? Don't be the honest guy that shows up to the dinner with your book.
That's jacked up.
And your podcast, which wasn't make it, so that you can ignore us or show us to our face that we're not as interesting worthy and complex as you,
or whatever he's listening to.
And he would swear like, "Oh no, if you want to talk to me, I'll take him out." Like, bro, just
no, bro.
Don't do this. And so we're in this really unique spot, Nick, where we're producers and investors, and we have this platform for conversation, right? So it's funny because me mentioning that I don't have that hard line, it works out because my advice to how to pitch to an investor, to a producer, would be different than my advice that I would give to an investor hearing a pitch from a producer. Yeah, so when Jason and I did Film Investment Series, that's my advice to investors. Okay, you just got told a barrage of lies. Take a day off, cool off.
Right.
Let the love affair stop a little bit so you can think rationally. Right? You got to be, rational in your thought. So just take a 24-hour cool off or a 36-hour cool off, right? Before you make your next step. To a producer, I might say, hey, roll that turd and glitter. Find language. The most important thing in any sale is narrative. Can you create a story around the thing you're talking about? Yeah. Now, is the story a lie? Or is it
aspirational?
Or is it aspirational? Is it just a glittery way to present a reality? So I think in this thing, there's a volley going on. There's a little tennis match going on where you have to be able to parse as an investor when you're being lied to. And if not, you're going to be taken for the ride of your life that's going to end in your absolute ruin.
So it's funny. So it's like investors beware, but at the same time, it's like filmmakers, roll that turd and glitter. Let's roll it.
Right. Exactly. As I'm saying. So it's one of these interesting things where, but I would also say to a producer, don't be an outright liar.
Of course.
If we say, if an investor says, why are you making this film? And you say, you want to honor your mom that is on dialysis, who might die in the next 2 or 3 years. And we find out your mom lives in California and, surfs every day and is a vision of health. Well, that's not a good way to start the conversation. You can't, you don't outright lie.
Yeah, there's lines. Again, this basically it's all about the lines you cross. Right. And that's it. That's where it's just like aspiration backed by perspiration.
Yeah, right? Perspiration. And look, you're allowed to tell Jackson moment right there. You're allowed to tell the lie that you don't know the answer to, or the lie you don't know is a lie. So a lie we hear all the time outside of comms is, well, we want to keep the budget low so that you'll make your money back faster. Well, I think that's the truth out of their mouth.
Right.
What I hear is a misrepresentation of the reality of the film business.
Right. Again, it's a lack of understanding. That's why I think it's less, that is less than a lie. It's more of just ignorance, like you said, of the realities of things.
Let's talk a little bit about where sometimes I feel like we're hard on creatives, probably because we're creatives ourselves and we're looking ourselves in the mirror and saying, we need to make sure we're doing these things or whatever, or we're giving advice and we're giving mentorship a lot anyway. We're doing consults as is.
Yep.
Let's flip it and talk about the consumers of art and indie film in particular, and film in particular, and the lies they tell. They're 33% because, and we've never done this before. Some of the viewers are filmmakers also, just to be fair.
Yep.
Just to be fair. And we are guilty of this lie. We've had to have been at some point. And the lie is that we want to see a movie that's based on human problems and human narratives, and we're tired of these damn Marvel and DC films. That's a lie. That's probably... Not even probably. That is a statistical lie. That is a lie that you can run a million models against and see that, no, we kind of like those big movies. And we kind of like those movies that we don't have a risk of having a bad time. We don't have a risk of being put off politically. We don't have a risk of investing in a performance that doesn't quite hit the mark like you get sometimes in indie film. But we don't want to admit that. And there's a couple of examples of this, right? Like, so if you look at Avatar, which is at the time it came out, and it might still be the greatest, the highest grossing movie of all time. They spent $150 million on marketing. And the question was posed. Did it become the highest grossing movie of all time because of the $150 million in marketing? Or did it become the highest grossing movie of all time because there was nothing like it at the time and the product was great?
Yep.
And people actually wanted to go see it. And there's a reason why the highest grossing movie of all time is Avatar, or something like it, if that record's been broken. And it's not The Color Purple. You know what I mean? It's not Philadelphia. It's not American Beauty. It's not, it's not a foreign film. There's a reason why. And I think as viewers, I think we always appreciate a great narrative film, but then you find out that we're not willing to go to the theater for it. We don't want to spend money on it. I mean, I think you told a story about a friend who was a so-called friend but wanted to wait to watch our film until the film was free.
Right. Yeah.
To go watch it. So, but his aspirational self as a viewer, I'm a guy who's a buddy that has a buddy that makes films, and I support him because I support indie film.
Right.
I don't think you do, bro.
Yeah. And I think it's, it's also the one part I think you left out was just being a part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the latest Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
If you didn't see the latest Spider-Man movie, like, are you human? Like,
right.
It gets into that thing where it's like, well, you can't be in the conversation, especially at a certain age, right? So if you're a kid, age 7 to 17,
yeah,
you have to be able to talk about Spider-Man,
right?
So let's take it a little bit older, right? Let's go from 18 to 35. That's 18 to 38.
18 to 35, right? I think is like the standard demo, though.
Yeah, we got to talk about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So you still, right? So it's like you still have to be in the conversation, right? Otherwise, you're going to be left out. So there's this part of that. So, and you're right. I think there are a lot of filmmakers who begrudge the studio films and the tentpole things and the constant remakes of things, right? So when you look at what these movies make, you're like, wait a second. So you're telling me that movie made $1 billion and not one independent filmmaker saw it?
Right.
It's like, so yeah. So I think there's a lie that we tell ourselves and maybe we tell each other about how much we hate these things and, you'd rather support. To me, the most damaging thing about that lie in particular is that, and I'm not saying that this is a blanket truth, right? So I'll say this, that the most damaging part about that lie could be that those filmmakers, indie or not, are not actually supporting independent filmmakers.
Right.
Like that's the key. Like if you're going to go spend that, $16 to $18 per person in the theater for the tentpole thing, like, are you not willing to spend $1.99, right, to rent a really good indie film?
Yeah.
That's the key for me.
Well, I think the other bad thing is what it does to the budding filmmaker and their choice of story to tell. Right. I've written 2 scripts. I think I'm going to make the horror film instead of the coming of age, because I think the horror film is what, everybody tells me they'll watch, our indie folks will watch and we can make some money doing.
Right.
Instead of the answer being tell a great story. Tell a great story.
Be rewarded for it.
And be regardless of genre, and you will probably win. But first things first, tell a story is king. Tell a great story. So you end up making a genre film where the audience wasn't honest with the creators that are on the ground in indie, but it's something that the studios already know the truth about. So, for example, I love the horror genre. There's something about it. There's something that's like my favorite thing. I love the twists, the turns, whatever, without saying, I love the blood. I love the nudity.
Right.
I love that it's always the rich guy's daughter that gets killed. This is what studios understand about human psychology. Did you know that when violence drops, this was a study, violence drops if men go watch a violent movie on a Friday night instead of go to the bar? If they forego the violent movie to go to the bar, violence increases in cities. So there's something about having us go to the movies and see something violent that sort of cleanses that need for us. And of course, Akato, there are obvious exceptions, of course, there are obvious exceptions. That's the actual acronym. But in general, It cleanses us, and then we're good. And we don't need to go out and do anything crazy. We saw it on the screen already. Like, we're good to go. And so if you get in a conversation about why you like that film, you're not going to say, I like it because that guy got an arrow thrown through his eyeball. We're not going to say something gruesome like that because we have a bias for social acceptance. But the reality is we actually do better. That is actually why we want to go see it. It is actually what gets a 19 to 25-year-old male to get out of his house and go buy popcorn and Cokes and go to the movie and see this big explosive thing on screen. It's getting the truth from the viewers and trying to get to the bottom of what they really want to see is critical for indie filmmakers when they're telling a story. If they want to tell a great story, you have to have the elements in the film that make it spicy.
Yeah, well, I think you just jumped into a different lie, not just an extension, which is when you try to tell, I'll just put it like this very simply. There are rules to this game.
Mm-hmm.
So when you lie to yourself and you say that you don't need to play by those rules because of whatever level of uniqueness you have or your level of creativity, the rules are there not for the sake of rigidity or the sake of sameness, but it is what you just said a couple of seconds ago, which is it's basic human psychology.
Yep.
You got Save the Cat, you got the filmmaker's journey, the hero's journey. It's the human psychology. You've got,
Bird
Shakespeare. Yeah, we got Shakespeare. You've got the 7 deadly sins,
mm-hmm.
right? Like the way all this stuff works, it's just human psychology. It isn't really rocket science. So that's the thing. It's like, how can you be creative within the rules? So again, for me, the lie is that you tell yourself and maybe others is that you don't need to conform, right? And again, it's not about conformity. It's not about sameness. It's about there are rules to human psychology and human behavior that if you hit these particular notes, then again, that person will go see that horror film because it hits all the notes and, won't perpetrate violence on their family or whatever. But
well, there's two ways to boil it down really simply. If you're on the storytelling side, 2 things to boil it down. One, if you're writing a story, you have to make sure your character really, truly suffers. Because the more they suffer, the stakes go up and the audience likes it. The second thing is to remember that as you are aspirational, the viewer is also aspirational. They believe in the lie that they're telling. Mm-hmm. This was proved out with Netflix. If you had Netflix 10 years ago or 8 years ago, you might have noticed that you could create a list of things you were going to watch later. What Netflix found out is you never clicked on those things you were going to watch later. There's a part of you that was aspirational as a viewer that said, I am going to watch that documentary. I am going to watch it. But you never did. And Netflix has the data to prove it.
Netflix says, no.
Yeah.
Look at the feed. That's who you are.
Who you are, right? Who you
watching
are,
this is who you pretend to be,
right? Who you are is someone who's going to watch 10 Things I Hate About You for the 50th time.
Yeah, right.
That's who you are, but your aspirational self wants to watch.
Octopus Teacher,
right? So they got rid of that list, and instead they replaced it with something called the doppelganger search. And the doppelganger search is used by Amazon. It's used by anywhere you buy things now. That's how powerful it is. And how it works out for the consumer is you click a thing and they match you to people that are like you. And that way they're able to feed you content you might like. If you go on Amazon, if you buy a book, it'll say people that bought this book also bought this stuff. Amazon increased their sales by 33% by doing that.
Yeah, and that kills me too, though, because when you've got other people in your house and you use the same account to search for stuff. So, if I'm on Netflix And then my son, who's, 10, wants to find this new cartoon movie or whatever it is. I got Netflix sending me that stuff now. I was like, get this stuff out of my feed.
See, I love it because I'm like, you don't know me, bitch.
You're right, exactly. You think you know me?
You
don't know
me.
You
don't know me. I don't want to watch Spirit.
Exactly.
I don't want to watch My Little Pony.
That's right.
You thought
you knew me. Right. You don't know me.
I'm straight NC-17.
Cleo.
If it's not NC-17, I don't want to watch it.
That's right. TVMA.
Yeah. If it's not, don't give me no TVMA 14. Don't give me no TV 14. I don't want TV 14. It's not TVMA. I'm not watching. Nick.
Yeah, man.
Oh, don't lie to me. Did you have a good time?
Always, man. Always. No lies.
That was 33%.
Exactly. 33% of 33% of this conversation I did not enjoy, but the other 66.666666667% on point.
33% of this podcast was a lie. If you're listening,
wait. See if you can figure out which
were we actually lying about.
Yeah, right.
Then, we'll send you a hoodie.
Right.
And if you want to tell us and tell us which part you thought we lied about, you can do that, Nick. You can do that by reaching out to us at contact@bonsai.film. That's an email address, as I always say. And you can reach out to us a variety of ways, outside of email, which is, let's say, social media, for example, Instagram, Twitter. You can hit us up at _Bonsai Creative. On YouTube. Yes, YouTube. And Facebook. You can just search for Bonsai Creative and we'll come right up. If you want to reach out to me and Nick directly, easy stuff. Nick is at Nick, N-I-C-K, at bonsai.film. And I like to get responses on Twitter. So you can just search for Christopher Barkley on Twitter or Flame in Your Heart. And your is spelled with just U-R. So Flame in Your Heart on Twitter. Hit me up. I will reach back out to you, I promise. And then if you want to learn more about Bonsai Creative and the Make It podcast and get links to everything, join our newsletter, be a member of our site, be a true fan, any of those things, you can go to www.bonsai.film. It is a good time there. We also have an industry insights blog you can be a part of. I mentioned true fans, contributions. We have to, do this podcast. Here's what people think. People think, Nick, that doing a podcast is like easy. Like it's no problem. Anybody can do it.
It's a lie.
Yep. It's a lie. And it's a half truth. Half of it, because the truth part is, anybody can do it. The lie part is to do it means to do it consistently.
Yep. On
time, every time, without failure, until the end of time. And to do that takes massive resources. So feel free if you believe that. Hopefully you do believe that. That is the truth. That is not a 33%er thing. It is true. So if you believe that, then feel free to contribute at bonsai.film/true fans. Contributions start at $5. And that's the cost of a chai latte. Like you can support this wonderful podcast for the cost of a coffee at Starbucks. And I think it is well worth it. Last, but certainly not least, don't forget to rate us on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcast 5 stars. It means the world to us. It helps people find us, expand this podcast, expand the message, and it helps more filmmakers out. So if you can do that for us, we will be forever grateful. And so with that long diatribe and monologue I just gave, Nick, can you send us off with the credo?
Yes, sir. So everybody out there, thank you for listening. Again, keep it up. Let's make it happen. I just said make it, like how that works. So make sure, exactly, be better, be creative, and be engaged.
And thank you for listening. Nick, talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. We'll do it, man. We'll do it again.
All right, brother. Be good.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Peace.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Make It podcast. To find out more information about this week's topics, including links to relevant blog posts, projects, and indie creatives, please visit our website at www.bonsai.film. If you haven't already, you can join our podcast community on Apple Podcasts or the podcast app of your choice by searching for Make It Bonsai Creative, and the show will pop right up. You now have the opportunity to support the production of this podcast. If you love Make It and are a true fan of what we're trying to accomplish in the indie film community, please visit www.bonsai.film and click Contribute. Contributions start at only $5 monthly. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at _Bonsai Creative and on Facebook by searching for Bonsai Creative. You can provide feedback to us via email at contact@bonsai.film, and you can follow me, Chris, on Twitter at FlamingYourHeart. That's FlamingYurHeart. And of course, if you're looking to take a big step towards your filmmaking success, go to www.bonsai.film and click on Services to explore a variety of offerings from keynotes and panels to pitch readiness assessments and so much more. You have everything to gain. Until next time, be better, be creative, be engaged, and thank you for listening.